Hi, I'm Tanya H. Franklin, and welcome to Tricks My Dog Taught Me, a podcast for lighthearted and occasional deep conversations with family and friends revolving around my journey as a dog mom to my little guy, Zach the Toy Poodle, which prompted me to self-publish my first book, Shit My Dog Taught Me, where I share some of my insights through poetry and weekly life lessons. So for today's episode, it's incredibly close to my heart. I have a guest who I've watched grow from a bright-eyed 8-year-old into a phenomenal woman, and I'm honored to call her my niece, and she's the daughter of my wonderful sister-in-law and dear friend, Deidre Franklin, who was a guest on the podcast for week 29's poem, Affection Pact. And as the adage goes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because she's an absolute force of nature, the fabulous Cree Redding. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me, and I'm so happy to have you here, Cree.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk today.
Awesome. And so I mentioned that your mom was here for week 29, and while you too are affection packed, week 33's poem is quick and smart, which is an American cinquain. And it describes you, and for me, it describes the way that you navigate through the world. So before we dive into conversation using the poem as the basis, I want to just share it with you and those who are listening or watching.
Yeah, okay.
If you want what others proclaiming you can't have, be quick to move in an instant. Outsmart. So with a cinquain, it's tricky because you have those 5 lines and how it's presented, but we ourselves can be tricky. And for me, with Zach, what inspired this poem is his ability to be quick and smart, especially with what he wants. And when he knows he can't have it, and he's like, listen, I'm going to find a way to get it. When he was a little puppy, I remember he would try to quickly steal a sock and make a dash for it. And it doesn't happen that much now, but he will. I'll never forget one time he snatched an entire slice of pizza from Quinn's plate because she went to go get her drink. And he gobbled up like half the slice, like in seconds. And I was like, we laughed about it, but it was funny. But at the same time, I was like, Zachy, no! But I'm like, he's so quick and smart, and he was just waiting for her to go. And he's 6 years old now. But when I think about life, and your life in particular, and how it seemed that you knew what you wanted at a young age and you went after it. And so I look at this poem as fitting you perfectly. So I want to talk about that journey that you've been on for some time now, from childhood into adulthood. Okay, so I want to start with some light conversation with the vibrant parts of your life. And anyone who I think knows you knows that you have a great sense of style. I mean, even looking at you right now, for those who are not watching, you look fabulous. So if you had to describe your fashion philosophy in just 3, what would they be?
Oh, this is a good question. Adaptive. I have to be comfortable these days with a 3-year-old. What's my third one? I would say Cree. I put a lot of my personality into how I dress. I didn't realize it at first, but my friends will say me something and be like, oh, that seems like something you would wear. It feels like my style just has like me in it at this point in my life. And I've developed a style that just came just because it flowed naturally. So I would say that those are the 3 things that come to mind. Yeah.
You got to help me out with adaptive, because that can be taken in so many different ways. Like, so adaptive. And then I like that you have the bookend where it's just you, it's Cree. So how do you merge the 2 of those? Because sometimes adaptive can mean that you just wear what everybody else is wearing. You adapt in that environment. But then adaptive can mean that you could be light years ahead and you're adapting before things even start happening.
Yeah. That's great. So I would say it's sort of the first where not necessarily what everyone's wearing. For instance, I went to the Jay-Z concert recently, right? And there was a theme going on of just like New York, New York Yankee stuff. A lot of people wore, some of the merch, some people wore camouflage. There was a theme going. People were wearing the Timberland boots and things like that. And I saw that and I was like, okay, I see the theme going. I think that's now a thing with concerts where people dress to the theme of the concert. Kind of started with like
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce Renaissance and now it just happens. But I took it and kind of made it my own. And like I had a New York Yankees t-shirt, but I had it reconstructed. So it was like tied on the sides and made into a halter top. And, I added my jewelry. I kind of made it my own while still being adaptive
Mm-hmm.
and fitting within the theme of the event. So these days, a lot of my personality, I can fit in almost anywhere, but there will also be my flair in there. I do it with work, when I
Love
go to
that.
work. The other day I went to like a client meeting and kind of the new thing right now are the more style, like trouser style shorts where they're long enough, where they're appropriate, like knee length trouser shorts. And I had that on with the blazer. And my client was like, "You're always so stylish and chic." And I was like, "Thank you." It still was fitting for a corporate, environment or, a professional environment, but it was like my little spin on it. So I think that that's kind of what I mean by the merging of all three of those things. And then comfy. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be comfy these days.
Yes.
Um, because being comfortable is key for me now. Just like I said, I have a 3-year-old. So it's really, I have to be moving and maneuvering and I'm always moving around. So I like to have my things be like comfortable. Whereas when I was younger, I could be
Mm-hmm.
in 6-inch heels all day and not anymore.
But something to certainly make a clear distinction, at least from my observation. And this is not to talk negatively about women who go this route, but your comfort is still fashionable. Some people, their comfort is frumpy.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
okay if that's their
Yeah.
thing. But I just want to be clear, your comfortable is still
Oh, yeah.
fashionable. So,
Exactly.
sometimes people are very, very comfortable. I
Yeah.
saw this post the other day and it was talking about what men don't like that women do. And
Mm,
at the top of the list was women who go outside with satin bonnets. Now that's comfortable. That's
yeah.
very
No.
comfortable. That's very, and I mean, I'm like I said, I mean, if that's what you want to do, wonderful. That's
Yeah.
extremely comfortable,
Mm.
but you might get some backlash from it, but you have to
Yeah.
be able to accept that and say, you know what, I don't care. So, but
Yeah.
that's what I said, I have
No,
to
put
make it
together
clear.
still. Yeah, yeah. You still have to be put
Yes,
together and presentable, but comfortable.
yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And
yes.
so there's a punchline in my poem, and it says outsmart. And that's the very last line in the poem. And so fashion is such a beautiful way to express yourself. And the industry is always trying to dictate the rules. And I love that you adapt and you always add your own flair to it. And I think sometimes women, at a certain age or even in a certain professional space, as you mentioned, that you have to think about what am I going to wear in this instance. So how do you use your personal style to outsmart the trends? Like you gave this one example, but what else might you do to say, you know what, I'm going to show the world exactly who I am on my own terms?
That's such a good question. I had an instance, and I can say it now because I'm no longer with the organization. A more senior leader in our department, a Black woman. She was in the organization at the time. She took me to coffee and she kind of presented it as a mentoring opportunity. Like, I want to talk to you. And we had a great talk. And then at the end of the conversation, she mentioned, I really would like to start inviting you to more events and taking you out in the industry and inviting you more places. But I need you to wear boring clothes. And I was like, boring clothes? And I was like, is anything I'm wearing like inappropriate? Because I'm very self-aware. So like kind of know that I'm not wearing anything inappropriate, but I wanted for her to tell me. so wait, is anything I'm wearing inappropriate? I'm also like, wait. And she's like, no, I just need you to wear boring clothes. So that always stuck
Hmm.
with me because it came from a person that I really admire, even still, like she's doing great things. But the comment made me feel like I needed to tone it down. She said I wasn't wearing anything
Hmm.
inappropriate, right? But it seems like it made her uncomfortable. For instance, I
Yeah.
would wear at this time, this was pre-COVID, right? So I wore business casual work clothes every single day to work. I would wear a button down, full button down, long sleeve shirt, but maybe it was black with white polka dots or like white with black polka dots and a long skirt almost to my calves at that point and closed toe shoes, but maybe the skirt was red or a brighter color. I wasn't wearing the typical black and white and things of that nature. So, I follow the rules, right? Like I follow the rules of like business casual, but again, I put my own flair to it where I felt like I was adding personality into the clothes that I wore to work because it felt more like me versus wearing something that was more like status quo, but it also was still within the box that I was supposed to be in as far as business casual, but again, I added my own flair to it. So that was a life lesson for me of like, okay, sometimes what you may wear, not that it's inappropriate, it may make people feel uncomfortable. So I read the room. Now I work in more of a
Hmm.
creative environment. I know now that I can wear things that are probably not pushing the bounds a little bit, but I can wear my cargo like army fatigue pants with a blazer to work and it's acceptable. So it's just more like reading the room. I felt like I read that room. I asked around like, do I make anyone feel uncomfortable with what I'm wearing? And everyone was like, what are you talking about? No, it was that one person. And it just stuck with me as I continued in my career. Just kind of read the room, always include my style because that's just who I am. I physically feel uncomfortable when I have something on that I'm not comfortable in wearing, like if I'm trying to
Hmm.
fit too much into a box, I physically feel it in my soul and in my body. So I just find ways to meet people where they are, but also still come as myself.
I appreciate that because something that you said that stuck out to me, and I don't know this person, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe that uncomfortable feeling was that she was concerned about eventually being upstaged. That sometimes there's people who they know they see something in you, and while they want you to do well, there's some people who are concerned about you surpassing them. And
Yeah.
maybe that was the case. Like I said, I don't know this woman. Maybe it wasn't the case and she called herself looking out for you. But
Yeah.
there's times when I've had people who have so-called looked out for me, and then I found out otherwise. One of the very first positions I remember I was interviewing for was a 2-round interview. And at the time, this was when I was first finishing college, and so I was experimenting with different color hair. And it wasn't like red like your shirt red, but it was that kind of burgundy-ish color red in my hair with like highlights to it. And to me, I felt like it was tamed. It wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
the singer Pink, where it was bright
Yeah.
pink hair or something. And I remember the woman who interviewed me, and she said, you seem really lovely and you're a great interview, but may I offer you a suggestion? And I said, sure. And she says, you maybe want to consider toning your hair down. And I just said, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I do the second interview. And it's a guy, I don't know, and he's just like, I just love your hair. And I'm like, so you can't win sometimes. And she probably said, I'm looking out for your best interest. I want you to do well. And then there's someone who's like, I absolutely love it. And then I think we get into those issues with, like I said, someone who is saying to themselves, wow, she's a bright star. Can't
Mm-hmm.
have her coming in and
Yeah.
upstaging me. And I think because to say wear boring clothes, it's one thing if she said, we try to wear muted colors here. We don't want to upstage the boss or something like that. But yeah, because I know
Yeah.
I tend to wear a lot of bright colors at work, especially in the winter, because most people, their default is to wear darker colors.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
said, it makes me feel happier. It has nothing to do with anyone else. So yeah,
Right.
but okay. Yeah. So I think that as long as it's great that you are at a place now where you're like, I can take comfort in what I'm wearing and knowing that I'm being appropriate, which is awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay, so while you're not on social media often,
Mhm.
I love catching glimpses of your latest girls' trip or family excursion and your Instagram stories. And I have a strong suspicion that you love to travel and explore. So, what's the most unforgettable destination you've been on so far? And if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't pick, if there's more than one, that's fine.
Um, Dubai. I went to Dubai 2021, I think. So it was kind of right, not 2020, but not 2022 as far as like the vibes of the world and like opening up and things of that nature. But Dubai was just a beautiful, beautiful place. Everything is immaculate. Everything is immaculate. Everything is clean. Everything is immaculate. It was a beautiful place. We met so many people from different countries because a lot of people come there to work, and their stories were very touching in a lot of ways. Both good and like, I wish this wasn't your like, you had to leave your family, your whole family, and like you live with like in a dormitory type of environment as like a 50-something-year-old man so that you can send money back to your friend. Like I wish that that wasn't the case, but I met a lot of people, and I think that one thing I noticed about Dubai and realized is we all have our own thoughts and biases and things of that nature. Everyone that
Mm,
I told I was going to Dubai was like, be safe, be careful, like don't like stay together. And you get that kind of advice a lot, no matter what, when you explore or go out of your norm or someone's norm. But I felt like the advice was a little more like, like please, like please in Dubai, like people kind of looked at us like we were crazy for going there. And
mm,
we got there and I never felt more safe. I've literally never felt more safe. People there were genuinely kind people and they looked out. I felt so safe. I could walk down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning and not feel like I needed to like clutch my purse or like be super cognizant. Of course, I'm always cognizant of my environment, but I just felt safe. And it was a good reminder for me to like not judge based off of anything that you may have heard from someone or like your own preconceived notions of a place or a person. And I think that that's the beautiful thing of traveling. It opens your mind up so much to different cultures and people, and it corrects your biases. It corrects your like thought processes that you may have had about people, and it opens your mind up to the world and realize that we're all people. Though we're different, different cultures have different things that they instill, and you respect it. It's not respectful to walk around Dubai with a lot of skin showing or like showing public affection. Like that's just not what they do there. And you be
mm-hmm.
respectful of that. You should be respectful because that's their culture and that's, how things go there. So it was just nice. It was really nice to go there, see the beauty of it. Like I said, everything is gold and tall and big and massive. Everything is like to the furthest extent. But it was just, again, also nice just to see a different culture in a different way. Um, and yeah, I would say that that was probably like one of my favorite trips of them all.
Awesome. I would love to go there. And I loved what you shared. I was actually talking about that not too long ago with my uncle about how if we all were given an opportunity to travel more, perhaps it would address some of not just our biases, but our prejudices and how
Yes.
we treat people and
Hmm.
seeing the way that people live. And not that we have to then become them, but to accept people as they are and to realize there's all these different ways to go about living one's life. And it's not a matter of saying one way is better than the other way, but to get to know our fellow humans. I think that if more people were able to do that, and like you said, sometimes people make these blanket statements, and I will say, I'm not going to act like I've never made a blanket statement, but if I ever catch myself doing it, I will backpedal on it and say, well, no, not all. And
Right.
so when someone makes a blanket statement about, you need to be careful because I heard these people, and then as soon as they make that these people statement, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
Because who's
No, yeah.
saying these people about someone that looks like me?
Oh,
Who's saying these
yes.
people about Americans? So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I look at it in traveling somewhere else to try to keep an open mind. As you said, of course, you want to be cognizant, you want to be circumspect of your surroundings, but that doesn't mean that you have to go around thinking you're better and
Mhm.
because, hey, I heard this. Well, just
Yes.
have the experience and see
Yes.
where that takes you.
Yes.
And so, I mean, a lot of people, they travel and things rarely go completely according to plan. I mean, there might be a flight delayed, weather
Yes.
changes, itineraries falling through. Have you ever had a travel moment where you had to think quick on your feet and move in
Oh,
an instant and you were like, okay, we're going to try and salvage this trip?
yeah, let me think. She don't have any of those moments
That's
that
good.
yeah, and I'm hoping I haven't had any.
I hope I didn't just jinx you.
Right. As I'm going to Nashville next week, I'm like, oh, there's my flight. No, I'm joking. I actually haven't had any of those moments where I've had to like pivot or like think fast on my feet with traveling, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we may look at it where it has to be something that's massive. And it doesn't even have to be something that's massive where, oh my gosh, I missed the connecting flight. Like, for example, when we went on our cruise,
Mm-hmm.
when we were flying into Orlando, Florida, the flight itself went smoothly, yet as we were landing, there was a lightning strike, and the
Mm.
lightning apparently had struck one of the areas where they were going to be loading the baggage. And we waited a whopping 2.5 hours for our luggage. I reserved the Uber
Uh,
a month
mm-hmm.
out because I figured with gas prices that I wanted to lock in the
Lock it
rate.
in.
And then I'm texting back and forth with the driver and
Mm-hmm.
I tell him I don't know how much longer it's going to be. And he
Mm-hmm.
was very kind because he waited. And so when I read the fine print, it said he only had to wait 15 minutes. This man
Yeah.
waited probably about a half hour.
Wow.
And then he said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to leave. And then I still got charged the $40 fee. And then I
No.
was looking on the bright side, and Quinn, she's traveling with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, the bright side is at least I had the money there because there's some people who travel and all they have is enough money to get there and maybe some money for some food.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I said, at least I have the money because $40 for some people, that's a lot to take that out of your travel expenses. And so while I certainly did not want to have to, because I had to not just pay the 40, I then had to reserve another one and
That's
then
right.
pay the price for that. And so that
Yeah.
was almost $100. I'm like, well, I can't not give the guy a tip just because of the other guy and say, well, that guy took your tip. so, so I looked at it where it wasn't something that was big, but at the same time, I could have, depending on my mindset, made it into something major and said, well, this
Yes.
is the start of a horrible trip. This happened
Oh,
and that happened. Because I see people where they allow it to snowball and then
yes.
they take it. And I'm like, this was just our flight. So we were going to be on this cruise for 8 days. Imagine if I allowed myself to carry that one hiccup into the
Yes.
rest of the vacation. But I've seen people who do that, and it
Yeah.
can be quite miserable being around when a person does that. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm trying to be happy. And they're all like, yeah, because you know this happened. And you're like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yes. That perspective is so important. Not like a travel hiccup, but I went to I think I mentioned I went to the Jay-Z concert 2 weeks ago now, and I was
Mm-hmm.
at the Sunday show that started like 3 hours late. And it was tough, right? I'm like, oh, we got there early. They were like, get there early. We got there at 7. And we were prepared, we were ready, happy to get in early, no issues getting in, and then we had to wait. And I think the show started at like 12:30. And of course you're frustrated, like, whoa. Not only did it start at 12:30, it wasn't like we have to go through the show now. We got back to our hotel room at 3:30 in the morning, which was insane. I was not
Mm.
expecting that at all, you know? But I thought about it like, how blessed am I to be here? You know what I mean? Like, this is like, we probably will never see him perform these songs probably again in our lifetime. You know, he's older now, so he may not go on another tour like,
Yes.
or like have the opportunity to see him in Yankee Stadium and all of that. And I really had to check myself because at first I'm like, I don't even want to see it. I don't care anymore. I'm ready to go. But then I had to check myself like, no, you are blessed to be here. You know what I mean? Like, you have to change your mindset because this is a dream for you and a lot of other people. And it's so crazy because the energy while people were waiting was very tense. And I'm like, ooh, how is he going to turn this around? And then as he starts the show and all the things are happening, you see everyone back in their element and so happy to be there. So I'm glad that it turned out to be the best for him and us. But
Mhm.
it really is
Mhm.
about your mindset and like how you look at things. And sometimes you just need to take a step back and be like, wait, this is a blessing, like, to be here. This is a great opportunity. And, just shift your mindset towards the positive because it's so easy to dwell in the negative. Whew, it's so easy to
Yes. Yes.
dwell there. It's so comfy there. It's warm. It just feels really good to just be like, I'm so mad. But it's also light and airy to be on the positive side of things.
Yes, yes, and so, um, you talked about going to the show. I'm assuming you went with, friends?
Yes, I went with one of my girlfriends.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nice, nice. And so I always think about when you go on different excursions, whether it's a show or even sometimes at family barbecues and some of your friends come through, you have such a nice, phenomenal core of friends, which
Yeah.
that itself is a blessing. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if your friends were to describe your role in the friend group, what
Mm.
title would they give you?
It's funny. I am the only mom in my friend group, but I think it would still be
Mm.
that title. I've always been the mother of the group. I've always been the nurturer. Everyone could come or feel comfortable coming to talk to me about something, kind of the therapist in a way. Um, but I've always been the person just to make sure everyone's okay. Helping. I have planner friends. I'm not the planner friend that's going to have the itinerary set and all of that, but I'm going to make sure that we follow it. I'm going to make sure that everyone has what they need. I'm going to make sure people are feeling heard and like people are feeling comfortable. With girls, it can get a little tricky with all our emotions and stuff sometimes. Um, so, just helping manage all of that stuff. So I would say the mom of the group, but also kind of like the therapist of the group, which kind of fits into the mom title too, where you have to like talk your kids through things, like
Yes.
help them navigate.
I love that. As you're saying that, I certainly would be the mom of the group. Probably even when I was very young, the mom of the group, which sometimes it got me in trouble with some of my friends where they would
Mm-hmm.
even say, "You're not my mom." And I'm like, "I'm just looking out for you."
I'm just looking
I'm just
out.
looking out for you. And so now that in being older and reflecting back, some people have come to me and said, I'm kind of glad you were looking out for me in those instances. So
Yeah.
the maturity level, I think, for me, when and not that any of these activities that there was necessarily something wrong with them, but like hanging out is something that I wouldn't say it's something I didn't like doing. I enjoyed hanging out, but where they wanted to hang out wasn't necessarily where I wanted to hang out. And
Right, right.
even in going to clubs, I was mainly there because I did a lot of rap stuff. And so I'd be there more so to perform and then, okay, I'm ready. Y'all ready to go? So, but yeah. And I think that for me, it in seeing something special in a lot of my friends, especially if they may not necessarily see it in themselves, even now to give that nudge. And I'll even ask every once in a while, I hope I'm not being a pest. I just see something in you and I
Yeah.
want you to lock in with this. I know
Uh-huh.
you can do this. And they're like, okay. All right, here we go. So, but yeah, but I want to relate back to the poem, Quick and Smart. So it's talking about moving in an instant and going after what others might think is impossible. So I feel
Oh,
like you've done exactly that in your personal life and in your professional life. And we got to talk about this. You've been with your husband since you were teenagers.
yeah.
And you just
That's
celebrated your 1 year anniversary,
wedding.
your
Yes,
marriage. And in
yes,
a
yes,
world
yes.
where people are like teen romances, they don't last. And you two outsmarted the odds. And no
Yes,
relationship's the same, of course. So for
yes.
you, what's the secret to growing together for so many years instead of growing apart, which I think sadly it happens with a lot of people.
Yeah. I met him in 8th grade. We went to different schools, but they were like rival schools. So we kind of like, well, we intertwined a lot. I met him going into my 8th grade year. Um, but I think the thing for us that has always worked is we never made each other, well, when we were younger, right? And like coming up through college, high school, all of the things, we never made each other the only thing. We lived our lives. We went to different high schools. We went to different colleges. He moved to LA. He lived in LA for a few years. I traveled. I did my things. I started my career. We lived our lives. We literally lived our lives, and we never made each other at that point in time the only thing. And I think that that helped us get through some of the times where people were like, well, we're in college, like, bye. We still respected each other, and we knew that we wanted to be in each other's lives, but we didn't want to get in the way of the other person's own personal journey. And I think that that was like, has been super important for us. We've both been super supportive of just each other's journeys. I've always been the type of person, okay, I need to go to college and then I get a job and then I do. And he is more spontaneous. He has more of an entrepreneurial mindset and things like that. And I think that works for us too, where I'm kind of like the stability of like, all right, I'm going to make sure that I have a steady job. And he's like, all right, I'm going to start this business and do this thing and I'm going to go here and do this. And I think that that works for us. But I think mostly throughout the years, through those trying times, again, we've always known we wanted to be together. But again, we didn't get in the way of each other's personal paths. And I think that that helped us not have any resentment towards each other. I don't have resentment towards him for going to LA because I personally was building my career. I was, traveling with my friends, doing different things. I would go to LA. We were still able to kind of live our lives and not with resentment of the other person feeling like they were holding them back. So I always say, like, yeah, when we got engaged, it was supposed like our 20-year anniversary of dating, right? Like it's insane to say because whatever. But I tell people there were so many phases throughout that time, right? There was high school, college, after college, COVID. There were so many different phases that it feels like we're like 3 years in, starting over with our son. Like we're 3 years in actually,
Mm,
versus like 20 because it feels like it just keeps restarting. We keep learning each other. We keep going through different phases in life. So, um, I think that that's kind of like how we did the impossible. It was really not getting in each other's way of our personal lives.
I love that. And I think that's something that's so key when I talk to some of my friends who are single. Something that not all of them say, but it seems like the same theme is they're looking for someone who's going to fulfill everything. And I think that that's part of the issue, or at least for me, I think that's part of the issue. It's because that's a huge burden to put on someone. I need you to be everything to me. I need you to
Mm-hmm.
be my confidant. I need you. And I'm not saying a person shouldn't be those things, but when we travel, when we do this, when we do that, that you have to be the person who carries the load for all of that. That's a
Wow.
lot for
Yeah.
anyone. So,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And I think
And
even like
and
you
so
said,
then even
that
when
introspective part of you where you're like, wait, I would have to be everything for you. When you flip it, it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to do that either. It gives you a little perspective.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
want to do
Could you
everything.
imagine? I mean, it makes me think about like, yeah, so I'm planning on going like I don't know, wherever, not the stereotype, but someplace that a guy wants to go. Yeah, we're gonna go to the race car place. I don't know. And you're like, oh, that sounds fun. Well, yeah, you're my person, so you now have to go with me to all of these different things. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, there's guys who hold your lady's purse in the store, but I'm
Hmm.
quite sure there's times when he would prefer, oh, sure, bring your friend with you.
Yes.
Or one of my favorites is going to different shows.
Hmm.
And if it's a male artist, an R&B artist, your Uncle Sean does not want to be there. I mean, he will entertain me if
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have any, and he'll like, ask Michelle. Michelle's my best friend. Ask
Uh,
Michelle. Doesn't she want to go? I mean, what guy wants to sit there
and
while,
listen to,
their
yeah.
lady is screaming, and so, but I'm like, if he has to be everything, that means he's got to be there while
Yes.
and endure me screaming. So,
Yes. Yes. That's
yeah, so
exactly
that's
it. It is.
a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah. Yes, yes. And so you mentioned about being a mom a few times, which is wonderful, to your beautiful toddler son, 3 years old. And so I still remember attending the gender reveal and seeing your face light up. And so how has becoming a mother shifted your perspective on life, or has it?
Oh, it has 1,000% shifted my perspective on life. Well, first of all, you mentioned the gender reveal, and I did light up, but inside I was like, I wanted a girl. I swore I was having a girl. You could have told me differently. I had our outfits planned out in my mind, and I just knew I was having a girl. And then it was like a boy. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this thing.
Mhm,
So that was the first real flash of like, you can't control this thing. This is one thing that you have to just go with the flow. You plan with your kids, you help guide them and direct them in ways, but there are a lot of things that you can't control. There are so many things that you can't control. And I'm still
mhm,
learning every day with Wraith just to let him grow as his own individual and let go of the control. And I think for me, that is one of the places where it is the biggest kind of struggle for me. Because you want to make sure, like, no, don't do it that way. Do it this way, because I know that it gets you there, right?
mhm,
And it's like, no, he gets there in his own way. And that has been the hardest thing, but the most special thing to see him do. When Wraith was 18 months, he was diagnosed with autism. So Wraith is on the autism spectrum. And that was so hard for us because we had a vision, right? Like, his dad has been an athlete his whole life. So everyone just expects, like, oh, Ray's gonna play basketball, right? Like, when we were younger, we were putting balls in his hands, just like he's gonna play basketball. Wraith has zero interest in basketball. Wraith is actually extremely interested in music. He loves string instruments. He knows, like, he goes to a music class and the teacher is like, wait, he actually knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just
mm,
playing, like, he actually is good at music at 3. So like, again, just letting go of that control with his language and his communication, that has been his biggest challenge so far. And just this morning, he said something to me and I was like, wow, like, we really got there. And he got there through his own way of, like, he's a gestalt language processor. So he learned, as there are different phases of it or whatever, but he learned in the beginning things in chunks. He had his scripts, and that's kind of like how you communicated, and you had to kind of know what he was asking for. And this morning he said a whole sentence. He said, I want to watch Blippi on the TV. And I said, you just said, like, before it would have been like, I want Blippi, and then he would point to the TV, or I want this, or I want that. He said a full sentence, and I was like, wow, like, that is, like, so amazing to see and to hear. And again, it's constant reminders every day just to, like, let him grow through his journey. I can't
mhm,
force it. You can't force it. You have to let them go. And I think that has shaped me in so many different ways, because you know, in the past, I felt like things would be done a certain way. Like you do things a certain way, or like, how don't you agree? Like, how don't you see this way? Like, and now my mind is just opened up so more because yeah, maybe they don't see it that way, or maybe there's a different way for them to get there, like different journeys. And I think that him and
Mhm.
like this whole journey with him has really taught me to just, all right, we'll get there. We'll get there your way, help him, help guide him, help navigate, but you have to allow people to get there in their own way and time. And I think that's one of the largest things that I've learned like over these last 3 years.
That's wonderful, and I know that I sometimes can want to have things in control and have things go a certain way, and Quinn definitely helped me out in that area in just observing her, and not only that, I would say for me, a big part of it was and still is that I want her to be her own person. And
Mhm.
even though I might occasionally, if she's in a video with me at the gym or
Mhm.
we're at some type of activity, I might say hashtag mini me, but
Mhm.
I still want her to be her. Not necessarily a carbon copy of me in the sense where I'm trying to control and create her to be like me. Because I always tell her, I want you to be you.
Mhm.
And so there's times when I might want to say something and I have to ask myself, is this something that's really going to put her in danger?
Yeah.
No. Okay, well, let me just take a step back and we'll see how this plays out. Or I'll always preface something and say to her, she's got 10 years on race, so she's 13 now. But, and I will say to her, and sometimes I'll say, before I give you this information, I said, this is just my story. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
the way things are going to go for you, but I want to share it with you. And
Right.
it might apply. Maybe it won't. So I'll
Uh-huh.
share it and just say, I'm going to just drop this here for you. And
Yeah.
so that's my way of saying, okay, I'm not trying to necessarily control the outcome, but
Mhm.
I also want to give you information so that you can make a wise decision for yourself when certain occurrences happen, whether it's at school or with
Mhm.
friends or things of that nature,
Mhm.
because I think that so many people, or at least my observation is they either are one extreme or the other. They have no control over their kids and their kids out there just wilding out in the streets.
Right.
Or it's like they've got such a chokehold on what their kids can do. So I'm trying to find that middle point where it's like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't have a chokehold on you and I'm not letting you wild out. I'm
Mhm.
trying to let you be yourself. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I want to be that guide that you need in
Yeah.
order to be a self-sufficient
Yeah.
person and self-sufficient human in life, you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and even in speaking about that, I think about when I became a mom and I
Mhm.
would get flooded with millions of pieces of unsolicited advice, whether it was from books that I chose to read or blogs or
Mhm.
just some total stranger who's telling me what I should or shouldn't do. And I have a
Yes.
feeling that you have too, just from hearing your chuckle. Do you have a
Yeah.
time where you said to yourself, okay, I got to just block that out and I got to trust my gut and what I think is best for my son?
For sure. Like so many things um come to mind when you say that. So many just little instances of like, oh well, there are some things that I wish I would have listened to, but there are other things where I'm like, that just doesn't work for my life. If I wish could have listened to it, but that doesn't apply to my life and how things work. Um I think a lot of our um journey thus far with like navigating and getting him resources and things, you know, within the special needs world, we get a lot of advice from people who autism is a spectrum, right? So like, yeah, I hear you on that, but like that's not his story. He doesn't do this thing or he doesn't. So even with different resources that we were provided, it's like one place we went to, we were looking for him a new school, and an ABA provider, a therapist. And one of the places we went to was like a therapy center. So kids kind of went there for school, and it was like a therapy center for kids that are on the spectrum. And we went to view it, and his dad and I, when we left, we literally were like, no, like they were selling us on it. Like, no, he'll have therapies like all day. This is an adaptive learning center and
Mm,
this is great for him. And we left, we both just knew that that wasn't right for our son. And these are experts in this field of, we should be, you would think that you should listen to them and like listen to, you know, what their recommendation is, but you also have to kind of take your own, understand your own journey, understand your kid and what they
Mm-hmm.
need, and make the right decision. We knew that that would make him regress versus push him forward. He needed to be in
Mm,
a standard classroom with support versus an environment where everyone's like him, because he also
mm-hmm.
picks up on things really easily. So there are certain things that he doesn't do that we didn't want him to begin doing. And that was one of the best decisions we made, which was hard because we also don't want him to feel like he, you know, in an environment where he feels not supported. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it was one of the best decisions we made, was to put him in a standard classroom and get him support in there. And he has grown so much since we made that decision versus putting him in a more therapy type of environment. Um, but yeah, I think that that's one of the things, because we're getting a lot of advice from people that this is their job. You know what I mean? This is their specialty. But we had to like decide against some of their recommendations, which is hard,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, they've learned and studied these things, but we also had to do what was right for our kids. So
Yes, yes, and trust your gut too.
trust your gut. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to shift gears because for you, I think the professional world, we were talking a little bit about fashion and the person who was uncomfortable with you not wearing boring clothes. So um, when we look at your highest career aspirations and trying to balance family life, what's a barrier you're determined to outsmart? Or maybe you already outsmarted, or you're looking in the future and you're like, okay, I'm preparing myself to make a move for when this opportunity appears.
I'm actually in a transitional period in my life with work specifically. Um, I've always thought about what I wanted and, all right, I'm going to do this thing. And I decided to work in advertising, and I planned on climbing the career ladder. And honestly, becoming a mom has shifted my thought process a bit. Things matter. People's money matter. You know, these companies have budgets, but the things that I'm talking about on a daily basis or that I'm stressed out about, to me, it doesn't matter that much in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like a lot of stress for something that is not that serious. There are so many serious things happening
Mm,
in this world that I need to shift my energy and my stress and all of that towards something else. So I'm actually just in a transitional period in my life where I'm trying to figure out what's next for me. One thing that always comes back, and I wish I would have done it sooner, and I kind of started it during COVID and then went back, but I believe the next thing for me is going back to school and getting my master's in clinical therapy. It's always something that I wanted to do. Um, and young, naive, I was like, oh, then I'll have to get my doctorate. I'll have to become like a I don't want to be in school that long. I would have been done by now if I would have just did it. So that's always fun to think about.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I just want to do things that matter at this point in my life, you know, matter to me, that feel fulfilling to me, that feel like my stress is worth it. It's making a difference. It's doing something that's like good in the world versus stressing about this ad not launching on time and things of that nature. That works for some people. If that's your dream, I am fully for it. I just know for me at this point in my life, it's not something that I feel very passionate about. And so with that, I have to be real with myself and realize it may be time for a transition, because very candidly, I don't want what's next here. I don't want my boss's job. I don't want to be the CMO of any company. Like, I don't want those things. It's what I've done for the last 9 years, but it's just not what I'm interested in at this point. So I'm in a transitional point in my life. And it's hard because I feel like I'm older now. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I have a son. Like, wow, I'm going to transition into a new career. But I do feel like in order for me to really be inspired by what's next, it's time for me to make that shift so that I can be in a space where I want what's next and I'm striving for what's next. I want to be really, really good and really smart in this area. I just don't feel that anymore right now. So yeah, I'm like in a transitional period. When I read like, what we would be talking about, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to disappoint her because I'm not like at a point right now. Let's go. Like I'm just like, wait, I need to pause and pivot a little bit.
Sometimes that's what we have to do is
Mhm.
pause and pivot before. And that to me is that's the coupling of it. It's not just quick and it's not just smart. It's quick and smart. And to me, in being quick and smart, that and is essential. The and is when you might need to say, all right, wait a minute. Let me look at my
Mhm.
surroundings before I move. There's some people who are very quick to make decisions and then they regret them after the fact. Or there's
Yeah.
some people who are too smart for their own good and they may have this position where it's top tier, but they're miserable.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of saying, I want to transition. I
Mhm.
think that few things. One is you're relatively compared to when I see people changing careers, you're young. So you making a change at this point, my sister, she changed from being an educator to a nurse, and this was in her 40s. So to
Yeah.
make that change, I always tell people if you're still alive and breathing, if you
Mhm.
have the determination and the discipline, you can make any change you want. You can transition into anything that you want. And something else that I think is worth noting that you said that some people at your age may not necessarily think about it, or it may not be, I guess, at the front of their mind, is you want to do something that not just makes you feel good, that does something good in the world. And there's so many people that I've encountered in their 20s and 30s where I won't say that's not the case for them, but
Mhm.
what supersedes that is money
Mhm.
and status. And
Mhm.
then they look at, oh, geez, now I've got money and status, but I'm working myself to death, or I don't have time for my child, or I don't have time for my significant other, or I don't just
Mhm.
have time for me because
Right.
I don't have an invested interest in what it is that they're having me do. So to
Yeah.
take a step back and to
Mhm.
say, you know what, maybe this isn't necessarily what I want to do. And I think quick and smart is also looking a couple of steps ahead. So even though you yourself may not be making a move at this point, you're looking a few steps ahead to say, all
Mhm.
right, based on where I am now, if I keep on this path, this is where I will eventually be headed. Is this is
Yeah.
where I want to head? If not, then I need to pivot. If
Yeah.
so, then okay, I'll just stay the course. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes people it's like when you don't have a navigation in your car and you just keep driving even though you see there's a dead end and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'll just keep going this way. And then someone's like, you didn't see it. And you're like, yeah, I saw it, but I figured. So yeah. And so I mean, I think that that's something to applaud yourself for is acknowledging that. So I think this was like perfect for you. And so, I mean, to me, this episode, it went by really quickly, but I do have one last question for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
If you were a dog, what
Yeah.
breed would you be and why?
So that's so funny that you say that. I've been thinking about this a lot and from my research because I don't have a dog myself, but my parents have dogs. I would say a Labrador. From my research on them, they are very family oriented. Um, it's funny, it's like, what would your ideal weekend be? And I'm like, being with my family, like doing something with my family or my friends. They're very loyal dogs. They're smart, they're energetic, but they're also just like the family oriented aspect of their personality is what really stuck out to me. It's like they're all about their family. And when I think about my values and things that I love about my life, it's my family and my friends. My people are what I do everything for. I love my family and my friends, and I felt that was like the one dog I was like, oh yeah, I'm here with you there, buddy. So maybe I'll even try to get one day. We'll be
Oh,
synergistic.
nice, nice. And
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome because they add so much to your life. I mean, hence, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast. This is my first time as a dog mom. So, what Zach has
Mhm.
added, not just to my life, but to our family's life. And I remember when we first were looking into getting Zach, and we decided we wanted a toy poodle. And I remember your uncle Sean's like, that's going to be your dog. And now it's like he spends so much time cuddled up on the sofa with him. Hey,
Yes,
buddy. Hey,
yes.
buddy. And Zach rolls over for a belly rub. And I'm like, oh, our dog, huh? And
What?
so
Him and his
I
brother
find that
said
a
the
lot of
same
times,
thing. My dad said that about Coco. Well, you're gonna be the one. No, he leaves events now. Like Coco's been home too long by herself. Him and Coco are locked in. I was like, I remember when we went to get her, you were like, that's your dog. You're gonna be walking her. He meal preps for her. He does everything for Coco. They are literally best friends. And it's so funny to see because he said the same exact thing. Oh, that's your dog. It's 100% his dog. Coco is 100% his dog.
and okay, and that's great. They have that in common. So I'm wondering for me, what dog breed do you think I would be and why?
Love this question too. I would say a German Shepherd. And I would say that because since I mean, I've known you almost all my life. I've always felt that you were very stoic in a way, right? Like very just always I felt like you always knew what you wanted. You were very driven. I always admired like, wow, she's a college professor. Like that just to me is like, wow, like you're so intelligent. You always kind of had the I'm not going to call it the right thing, but I always admired just like how you knew what you wanted in life. And like when you knew what you wanted, you did it. Even with like your workout journey, like you just locked into it and you just did it and you're doing it to like the maximum capacity for your life. And I always admired that because I'm always like, all right, I'm going to start working out. And then I'm like, I'm tired today. And you're like, no, I do it this is what I do. You know what I mean? Like you were able to like lock in. And I feel like German Shepherds they're intelligent. They're very intelligent types of dogs, but they're also just like, kind of like what you want to be in a person. I don't know. Like, I feel like they're like the ideal dog. Like, they're smart, they're energetic, they know what they want, like, they know themselves, they're comfortable in themselves. And it's kind of like the dog that everyone wants or everyone wants to be, right? Like, when you look at it, it's just like, I want to be that driven. I want to be that smart. Like, I want to be that person that can lock in on something and really just stick to it. And yeah, I think that when I thought about it, I think that that's like the dog that I would say for you because you're always doing the things that are hard, but also you do it with ease and you're just so smart. So smart.
Thank you
So
so
smart.
much. You made my day. Oh, Cree, having you here today and just looking back at your journey from that sweet 8-year-old to the brilliant, loving, stylish woman, wife,
Thank
and mother that you are today is such a gift. And I
you.
thank you for always being quick to love, smart in your choices, and just an absolute joy to have in the family. So,
Thank
and to you, our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll take a quick few seconds to share this episode with your family and friends, and also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Tricks My Dog Taught Me. Until next time, when I get into week 34's poem, The Love Show, here's a lesson from my little guy, Zach the Toy Poodle. Your desire's intensity shapes how swiftly and smartly you chase your dreams. Take care, and I'll see you next week.